Read on Reddit.
Baby Yoda and the Dark Crystal prove we still need puppetry in the age of CGI. Part 2.
Elementium 16H is always the best is in the middle. Make your costumes, puppets and props as real as you can and use CGI to enhance them where it's needed. Veracity 16H yes. There's a reason people still remember the special effects in Jurassic Park. Over 25 years later, they did amazing things with animatronics and puppetry. They only used CGI when they needed to, and it made for a better film. Crazy Trumpeter 0516H just FYI Jurassic Park came out in 1993 so it's not 35 years old. Though on second reading I now realize you were likely trying to say 25. One more reply of Feral 16H over 35 years later 35 years later 35 years don't do that to me. It's only been 25 years. For a second I had temporal panic. Veracity 15H shit. Yes. Sorry. Edited. You'd think I'd know better I'm 34. Reddit Consciousness 15H for those who have Crunchyroll I highly recommend Thunderbolt Fantasy. Your basic samurai anime done with puppets. Yes the puppets bleed. Yes there are decapitations. Music is done by Sayano who some may know from Attack on Titan and other things. There are 2 movies and are working on a 3rd season right now. Here is the opening scene to get a feel for it. Ivan the Unpleasant 15H Farscape was already proof of that. I'm a DR not 14H I bet this person didn't realize how often Yoda was CGI and didn't notice that sometimes Yoda was an animatronic with a CGI face. Binley 38B 14H I've always thought that practical effects are so much better to look at as everything looks more tangible. Part of the reason the Hobbit films failed in my opinion was their overuse of CGI which now looks dated and even worse than on release. Street Urchin 133,714H honestly, some scenes with Baby Yoda were bad, and needed more CGI. Like distractingly bad. American Sniper Baby bad. Minamayu 14H yeah. I can't wait for the next season of Age of Resistance. Hinkle 13H it's still amazing to me that the prequels went so far off the rails with CGI and scrapped the practical effects. Lord of the Rings would also be a great example of the combination of practical with CGI. Land of the Dead 13H puppets are great. So glad Star Wars has decided to go back to it. The first 3 episodes, CGI was so heavily used it took away from the feel of Star Wars. Puppets and models are what make it so good, and have such a tactile feel. Shark Week 24,713H VFX soup here. I %100 agree. The shit we can do these days blows my mind but we are really just scratching the surface. Puppets as corny as they may be, have a natural feeling of life that even the best VFX can't touch. Cult of Momo 13H at the end of the day, real objects will always look more real than CGI. This is why films like Lord of the Rings and the original Star Wars trilogy have aged much better than their respective prequel trilogy. Adam.com 12H I thought I read that Baby Yoda was entirely CG. Chance 5E11H the only people who didn't know this were Hollywood studio executives. Snoozeflu 11H which scenes of Baby Yoda was a puppet? All of it? Jace Ven 9H the Dark Crystal was breathtaking. I watched season 1 twice now and every time I am just blown away with the world building, character development, voice acting and everything else. It has quality all around. Super Saiyan American 8H 1990 TMNT is better than the Bay CG Turtles. Scotty D 16H CGI animation tends to be too smooth to be realistic. It usually looks like things are moving in syrup. Realistic things like twitches, mistakes, or any kind of hiccup get massaged out in favor of perfectly eased A to B movement. Puppets are physical objects with real weight and size that exist in the space. Edit. I do not feel this is true of all CG animation, but more what I imagine a CG Dark Crystal or Baby Yoda might look like based on my experience viewing realistic CG characters in movies and games. I'm a big fan of experimental and stylized CG animation. Polite Alpha 14H what a weird blanket statement. Ogscrub 14H you only have to watch the Dark Crystal to know this is not true. The puppets don't move remotely lifelike or portray realistic weight and size. They just don't. Mika Pictor 16H yes, and no. I think lots of CGI is fine, but the problem is that people want to lean too far. They over-animate to the point it takes me out of it. Be subtle, don't go back overboard. I think practical effects means directors are forced to exhibit a bit of restraint. Vander Z15H and don't forget stop motion, like Kubo and the 2 strings and missing link. Withholding for Lucas 15H people really throw that word, prove, around. Joule 15H Age of Resistance was immo better than the film, and was spectacularly done. Netflix is showing itself to be a force to contend with. The Secret Me 16H not a single movie production would ever disagree. Not everyone has the budget for extensive animatronic work though. Rebo Zudi 15H Herder CGI bad. De Niro 16H I'm gonna be honest here. I'm a huge fan of practical effects. That being said, when I saw pics of Baby Yoda I thought it was CGI. Not in a bad way, just that it looked really smooth and well done. Then when I watched the show I realized it was practical, and to be totally honest, I kind of wish it had been CGI. The movements and blinking are all a little off, and a little jerky, and if the thing is gonna look CGI anyway it might have been a better route to take in this instance. Hell, look at his Dark Materials, the HBO series, and the Planet of the Apes movies. CGI of animals is finally reaching the point where they look really good instead of completely fake. Tinnabones 46515H started The Mandalorian last night. The movements kinda make me uncomfortable and it's pretty distracting. At least a lot of other people love it though. Just not for me. De Niro 15H I love the show. I just was surprised to find myself wishing that he was CGI. Afloka 16H I have to admit that I agree with you. Overall Baby Yoda was pretty good, and maybe to do more with CGI would have been cost prohibitive. But there were definitely times in the show where the child had some definite doll vibes going that were rather immersion breaking for a 2019 show. Salfkvoj 13H I thought the CGI in His Dark Materials movie was off-putting and bad. I was also dealing with disliking the adaptation of a book I really enjoyed, so that may have played a role, but generally I thought it looked pretty bad. Ragumat 15H agreed. I quite enjoyed the show, but Baby Yoda was very distracting. MR Call 17H I actually haven't seen either show, but I still completely agree. There is a magical quality to practical stuff. That's also why I'm glad Leica is putting those Nike money to good use keeping stop motion alive. Also cool that Wes Anderson is working in that format. Prince 89714H I've always heard that practical effects cost a heck of a lot more. That's mainly why it isn't done more in Hollywood. This is what makes movies by Guillermo del Toro so special. He uses as much practical effects as he can. Clean Reserve 416H Do any recent films use stop motion? Ferreerable 16H That's all Leica does. Money Tree Fitty 15H Seriously, can you imagine puppetry of the penis done with CGI? It would completely ruin the immersion, as well as the magic. Titty Waffles 31215H I thought the balance of puppetry and CGI was pretty well met in Mandalorian. Sure you can maybe tell when which is which but it felt okay to me. Smug 4715H Leica, come take your rightful place in this sphere. Summonest 15H Good practical effects look so much better than good CGI. It's like how a CGI human will never look more human than a human, barring some tricks in perception. Tall Honky 15H We need better writing and better stories. Effects are secondary. Susanna 15H HTTPS. ICIM CDN.com Photos Images Original 001 571 475 1 ECJPG. Light off new 15H more so than ever actually. The reason puppets fell off is because they couldn't mimic the small facial movements that humans gave off despite being the perfect medium to display the strange in the real world. With CGI you can now make small, beautiful changes to a puppet face that bring them to life like never before. With both there is really no reason to have anything live action with a placed-in CGI character. Structure Adatrophy 14H Not only puppetry, but makeup as well, or costumes. I'd rather watch the original The Evil Dead than the remake because of this. There are instances where CGI looks amazing, though. Forgive me for giving this example but, Game of Thrones. Juna Music 14H The one thing they should focus on is giving the puppet some weight. It still looks like the actors are holding a toy. Duh. Titan CMD 14H It's pretty obvious when they pick up Baby Yoda that it's a doll. Big Guy Who Kills 14H Prove you are using that word incorrectly. Marcus the Animal 14H Puppets in the Dark Crystal need better mouths. It's proper distracting come on now. Sean 2,458,914H We need a motherfucking Gremlins movie damn it. Kids don't know WHO Gizmo is. Larusa Music 14H Yup. The original Jurassic Park still looks better than most high-budget films that are released today and it's like 25 years old. Donnie 181,614H Anyone else think all these Baby Yoda memes were initially made by the Disney PR team? No way should it have gotten as popular as it did. Gecko Wrangler 14H. Same stuff was said about Fury Road when they actually had built out the vehicles and ran them around the desert while filming, and only used CGI to cover up safety equipment or add extra stuff to the vehicles that would have made them less safe for the stunt actors while filming. Yet these days you get films that are upwards of 90% CGI with actors working in front of green screens instead of sets or the actual locations. Nabata Grotesque 14H. The Happy Time murder sex scene proves we need puppetry still. Poke I Jaffo Sman Crack 6914H. Tight. Nawerman 13614H. More Muppets please. Chris Mintifer 114H. This is ridiculous. People need to learn how it works. This is a TV show. The budget does not call for a $10 million puppet or $10 million CGI. You get what you pay for and it looks good enough. If you had a doll of the same quality you wouldn't be able to give it the expressions and movements that you want to. If it's CGI then it's not going to look like it's really there as much as a puppet would. Ultimately at this point in time CGI is the best route and you're just going to need to learn to live with it. Termenhater 14H. Yes. And notice how Baby Yoda is sometimes rendered in full CGI and it looks fine, but only because they have a real-life puppet reference to recreate it digitally. CGI characters created out of nothing are the problem. Using it sparingly in certain situations is fine. Breeze at 9314H. Haven't watched The Dark Crystal, but I think CGI the child was fantastic. A puppet would have been distracting as Yoda was in The Last Jedi. XS Tech Support 13H. You only notice bad CGI. Great CGI goes unnoticed. The best is a healthy blend of both. Razir 13H. Am I the only one who felt the puppet Baby Yoda felt weird at times? Like every time it was picked up, it was clearly a rigid body, like a box of Yoda. Good King Hippo 13H. Baby Yoda's puppetry could have been done much better. I feel like they didn't call in the Henson Company on that one. He isn't even weighted properly, so when he's being passed off from one person to the other he just looks like a lifeless baby doll. Dr. Werner Kloppik 8913H. Maybe they could use CGI to get Baby Yoda to blink properly. Slednix 13H. Movies like the original Jurassic Park and Alien still hold up after all this time because of amazing artists and animatronics. CGI has come a long way but still doesn't cut it in most cases. Benji 8113H. Practical effects in film are on the rise again. They have that real tone. Shadoust 1713H. Not really. Animatronics are fantastic but even back in the old days they resorted to stop motion for anything that needed to move a lot. Baby Yoda was a case of having their cake and eating it too. Baby Yoda didn't really move much and the shots where he did were done fully CG. I think people need to stop looking at animatronics with rose-tinted glasses and accept its limitations. Android Doctor 13H. I'm pretty sure IG-11 is a puppet too. The way it moves, it looks like it has weight. It feels like a real robot, not CGI. Vidago 12H. I just sort of assumed he was for most shots, and that any full body shots of him walking were done similarly to how they did 3PO in TPM. An actor wearing a green jumpsuit attached to the back that was CGI'd out later. Skywalker 6913H. Real and tangible will always be better. Redog 84613H. I'm in the rare party that while I loved the Mandalorian Baby Yoda movements were too stiff and was the only thing in the show that felt fake to me. You need CGI to make real-life movements unless you use robotics, which I'm not sure if we are there yet. Again, I love Baby Yoda and The Mandalorian, but Baby Yoda was too stiff. Denorex 212413H. CGI is great and all, but something about puppets can make a movie or show pop and stand out. Crom 13H. Remember Farscape? Jim Henson Studios did the puppetry for that show as well. Rumblet 412H. Jurassic Park 1 was way more real than the new Jurassic Parks for me. Practical effects give it a lot more realism to me. Gnarly Harley 12H. Sounds like an unpopular opinion. If both are done well, it doesn't matter. Mike Bison YT 12H. No one said we didn't. That's on producers, executive, and time. VFX artists are abused on their labor so bad, and VFX studios that have made great CGI has folded because of high bidding and low pay Hollywood production will pay for. Digital Stefan 11H. Baby Yoda is good, but the Hunter Nurse droid is utterly amazing. Tiger Irol 11H. Baby Yoda just looks better as a puppet and the show will age better. Star Wars has always had animatronics and puppets. It just adds to the look of Star Wars. Woodripper 11H. Recently rewatched the original Jurassic Park, and the practical effects totally hold up. Granted, the CGI in that is still better than some of the crap made today. but there's a huge difference between full CGI and a mix of practical and CG. JD loves Elliot Scrubs 10H. My favorite aspect of Rise of Skywalker was all of the puppetry. I think that the acting looks better when the actors are interacting with props that are mostly made instead of mostly CGI and green screen. Chizik Mentor 10H. Wait, Baby Yoda's a puppet? Rick Vince 10H. Not to mention the boredom I felt during the last 2 Jurassic World movies. One more reply. Wub Waffles 10H. Was Baby Yoda a puppet? Save my elephants 10H. CGI is like boob implants. You don't notice when it's done well. You only notice the poor job. Crocodile Fish 10H. Just spray paint Danny DeVito green and we won't need either of those things. The Social Wizard 10H. I'm pretty sure the whole point of the Dark Crystal is puppetry. Jiboku 10H. CGI has its place, but I love practical effects. I grew up with them and they can look amazing. Thatfakingu Inagotive 9H. Hell yeah we do. Give us Team America World Police 2. Risen 9H. This notion seems pompous. I love Lil Yodi. R33K1D 9H. Baby Yoda is a puppet. Joracle 7H. This is a lot of elegant text to say. CGI still kind of sucks. Why do we pretend it doesn't? Yeah, it gets better every year, but it still has a long way to go before we leave Uncanny Valley. And that's fine so long as directors stop pretending we can't see the difference. But right now, nearly every movie is like watching Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but no one ever acknowledges that the characters are cartoons in the real world. Juan Carlos 7H. Apparently not, since no one watched The Dark Crystal. It was one of the best first seasons of TV I've ever seen. No one watched it. Reinbatch the third 7H. I don't care what anyone says. Practical effects are where it's at. It's just matched 1237H. I am so sick of CGI. It's all anything is anymore and it's getting to be too much. F0SH5H. Cheap puppets look better than cheap CGI, but the best CGI looks better than the best puppets. Yossi 6424H. I'm 12 hours late to this post, but I'm going to comment anyway. Watch Thunderbolt Fantasy. Whistleboom 4H. Practical special effects with CGI makes the most convincing stuff. Urban Maniac 3H. Wait, Baby Yoda was a puppet. Gassing the Germans 2H. I would kill to watch a mainstream movie that only used practical effects. La Sing Steamfist 15H. The only reason you guys have this opinion is because it's Star Wars. Baby Yoda looks like a rubber doll with weird mechanical movement. Lillian Pumpernickel 15H. I'm slowly seeing the millennial opinions that they'll carry into their old age that will become dated and weird. Puppets do not look better than CGI. Millennials and older just like the nostalgia of their weird puppet TV shows and movies from when they grew up. It's like people think designing a puppet is more noble, creative and artistic than designing a character digitally. Quigalo 16H. Consumers don't know when they're looking at good CGI. I love Wildlife 15H. Puppets are fucking creepy. I hate them so much. I can't stand watching anything with puppets in them. I also hate stop motion animation. CGI is king. King Fagitas 13H. We're in the minority here. I hate Baby Yoda's puppet. It looks so absurdly fake and stands out so much. It really cheapened the show for me. Blazera 15H. Would have been better in CGI. Thichaphilavesinit 16H. Apparently I'm the only one that thinks the Baby Yoda puppet doesn't look remotely alive. Nazoragath 15H. As someone who works in film and has dealt with puppets and CGI, trust me, focus more on if it's good and why it's good rather than how they did it. A puppet is not good just because it is a puppet. Sometimes it's absolutely crap. Look at the puppetry in American Sniper. It's a joke. Oddsphere 15H. It's not about practical versus CGI. It's about good storytelling. I don't know why Hollywood can't see that. For example, the World of Warcraft cinematics are amazing. People have been asking them to make a movie using their CGI for ages. Not only do they look good, but the stories they bring to life, the lore they tell about that world are great. Always Scumbling 12H. Meanwhile, the actual Warcraft movie was terrible, because it had a weak script and didn't tell a good story at all. Jorge Alchinch 11H. I wanted to like it so much but it was pretty bad. Vashant Game of Thrones 14H. Nah, CGI would have been better for Yoda. Oh, Watchdog 14H. Big fan of practical effects. However, many of us tend to romanticize it and lament CGI. Sometimes we forget the myriad of terrible practical effects that we grew up with. It doesn't help that great CGI is imperceptible. This is the best defense of CGI MO. Rima 5 Ter 13H. Honestly, it was way too obvious that Baby Yoda was a puppet. You could tell by the way it's framed in shots. It's a hand puppet and sometimes a marionette. Didn't bother me enough not to enjoy the show, but bizarre to use it as a prime example of why not to use CGI. Earthpig Johnson 16H CGI proved that we still need puppetry. Saji Juice 16H Dark Crystal creeps me out. Chimichim 14H Nah. The Dark Crystal is tough to watch because of the mouth movements. Ascent to Zenith 15H I loved Baby Yoda but unfortunately I was able to tell it was a doll at some points. Still cute though. Designbot 14H puppets are great, but it's completely misleading not to mention that Baby Yoda is probably CGI or CGI enhanced in well over 50% of his shots. It's just done well, so it's not always obvious which is which. Edit. Confirmation from animation director at ILM. https:// Twitter.com Hal Hickle status /1211917416998924288. Don't forget the Phantom Menace released with a physical Yoda puppet, and it looked like ass. They replaced it with a CGI Yoda on the Blu-rays. That also looked like ass. It's all in the execution. Lwad 14H Baby Yoda. Yes, the puppets in the Dark Crystal creeped my kids out though. They couldn't make it through the first episode. Do the Evolution 14H I am sorry I think puppets are inferior to good CGI. Z13H Personally I found the obvious rubber puppet mouths in the Dark Crystal series very distracting. Completely broke my immersion as I did not believe for a second that those characters were actually talking. Chido 170712H They prove nothing. By the way tell that to all those Marvel movies which are basically 99% CGI. You go girl negative 12H and it shows. Purona 9H I mean, there isn't a moment Yoda is on screen and I don't think that it's not a puppet. Funas 9H I disagree. Baby Yoda would have been better with CGI. Thilambox 8H I don't know. I hate the stiffness of puppets. I much rather see well executed CGI. Any talk now more now 16H I'm watching The Witcher and to see some prosthetics just blew my mind. I had so much fun with it.
If you enjoyed this video, please smash the like button below and subscribe to my channel for future videos. Thanks for watching.